Immigration attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Put your questions in the comments now so that I can answer your questions. I have a good topic for you today. So as you may have heard, you may not have heard, that way I'm giving you some good news right now. They are now issuing 5-year work permits for certain individuals, and I wanted to talk about the ways to get the 5-year work permit. Because if you can qualify for that, it will be very useful for you as you go through your process. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight some of the ways you can obtain the 5-year work permit. Now, the reason they are now issuing 5-year work permits is because the processing times are taking so long that they want to reduce the backlog, they want to reduce the stress and the delays caused by a number of people every year having to renew their work permit every 2 years. So it because of that, the officers at the USCIS have to be continuously renewing work permits, while immigrants who have the work permits, so previously it was 2-year work permits, during the Trump administration it was 1-year work permit, which was frustrating, which means that every time it expired or was close to expiration, the immigrant would have to wait until it was reissued, or they would have to present to the employer a paper, like a paper type of extension, which that in itself can create problems because some people, employers question. So I've had to, write letters or intervene to talk to the employer and explain to the employer that the letter is an proof of extension, because if you get the letter one, it's some employers don't want to accept it, they want the card. So to avoid all of these kinds of misunderstandings, they are now issuing the 5-year work permit, which I am so happy about. Yes, under Trump, it was only 1 year. So frustrating because as you blink your eye, 1 year is over and it's time to apply. And then keep in mind that you would have to sit there for another 6 months to wait for the new work permit. And by the time you got the new work permit, it was time to renew it again. So they're trying to just resolve some of these issues caused by policies like that by issuing the 5-year work permit. Now, 5-year work permits are being issued, and we're already getting these for our clients. They're being issued under adjustment of status. So if you're applying through family members for permanent residents, you're applying through VAWA. So you'll hear me talk about VAWA often. After September 27th, 2023, this year, just a few weeks ago, if you've been approved for your work permit or your renewed work permit has been approved, you'll be getting your 5-year work permit if you're applying for adjustment of status. Adjustment of status through employment, adjustment of status through your relatives, adjustment of status through VAWA now have 5-year work permits. Also, if you're applying for asylum, they're now issuing 5-year work permits because the asylum process is taking a very long time. So the average cases are taking 3 to 5 years. And so to alleviate some of the stresses of having to renew, they are now doing the 5-year work permit for asylum. Now, I do other types of cases, for example, T status, that is 4 years because the status itself, you get an immigration status. You get it's type, we call it the T visa or T status. With that one, it's the 4 years. Today, I'm focusing though on the types of work permits where you can get the 5-year, the types of processes where you can get the 5-year work permit. Now, if you're going through court, you've been through court and you've been granted withholding of removal, then you are also going to be granted a 5-year work permit. Now, withholding of removal, that's the last resort kind of scenario. in the process, and nobody wants to be there. But withholding of removal means that they're not going to make a move on deporting the individual. Instead of granting them asylum, in the alternative, they gave them withholding of removal. So if conditions change in their country, they will deport them. They will make a move to deport them. But as long as the country, maybe they have conflict, warfare, maybe their lives are um, their lives are in danger, but they didn't qualify for asylum, so they got withholding of removal in immigration court. That one is now comes with a 5-year work permit as well. So that's amazing news. The best thing you can do now is schedule and a time to see if you qualify. But keep in mind that the 5-year work permits are one thing, but there are other types of statuses that you can obtain where you can get the work permit. For example, if you were paroled into the country, then you can apply for your work permit. And right now, the government, they're issuing a campaign letting people know that if you've been paroled into the country, apply for your work authorization before it expires. Now, I mentioned T status and also the U visa for victims of crime. If you've been the victim of a crime, then the U visa is a potential option. Now, the U visa comes with certain pros and cons. For one, it does take a long time to get the U visa. So I would say 7 to 10 years right now. So what they're doing though is they have implemented a policy where they check over, do a preliminary review of the application, and if they see that the application is properly filed, everything looks good, they will put the applicant in deferred action. And in deferred action means they can get the work permit then as well. So, there are different ways, and the best thing you can do is invest in yourself and schedule an appointment to see if these can work for you. Because I've had my clients, many of my clients, they contacted me even after other attorneys have told them no way, and I have found a way for my clients. So get in touch. Let's talk and let's see if you qualify for one of these ways. Now, I want to jump to questions. I really want to spend some time on your questions. So put your questions in the comments. I am right now, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. I am on TikTok. So I'm monitoring all of the comments that are coming in, and I'm going to scroll through and start to answer questions. So please put your questions in the comments so I can start answering. How to get the 5-year work permit. So I just went over that. So the next thing you do is schedule that appointment, get in touch, and let's talk about whether you qualify. If you get the work permit, how longer you have to wait for the green card. So there is no timeline that says, oh, okay, after a year after you get your work permit, you get your green card. The processing time for the green card is usually from date of filing, and it's usually posted on the USCIS website based on the form and the case type that you filed for. You can go ahead and check the case processing times, because I don't know what you filed for, what kind of green card you filed for, through who's a petitioner. Are you the self petitioner? Is there an employer? Is there a relative involved? So the best thing you can do is look at the case processing times on the uscis.gov website to see if you can spot the processing times. The processing times usually shows the maximum processing time that it is taking them. All right, keep putting those questions in the comments. With VAWA, if I renew work permit, will I get the 5 years? Yes, so great, thank you for bringing that up. So renewed work permits after, September 27th, 2023 will now be issued as 5-year work permits. So yes. what happens after being approved for the work permit? Then, now, I'm glad you asked this because the work permit is different from a visa. The work permit in itself does not give you official immigration status. Usually, the work permit is there to hold you over until you get your status, until you get your green card or the status you're applying for. So the work permit means after you get the work permit means you can get to work, you can move on with your life, because you'll get your social security number as well. But it also means that it's time to wait for the immigration service to make the final decision in your case. And the length of time it's going to take is going to depend on your case type and what's going on in your case. All right, here on YouTube. Good afternoon. Can a grandson file for a grandmother? Unfortunately, not. Now, if your grandmother legally adopted you, then yes, an adopted mother can be sponsored by the grandson. But if you're just looking at the grandparent grandchild relationship, then no, it's not going to happen. How long after getting a green card can one file for citizenship? So, when you've gotten your green card, it's time to start counting for 5 years. That's a general rule. 5 years from the date that you've been approved for your green card, you're able to get citizenship. Now, if you're married to a US citizen, there's an extra benefit there. You can get it in 3 years from the date that you've been approved, as long as you are still with your US citizen spouse. And then if you're in the military, then you're looking at about a year, and a year during peacetime. But if there's any conflict that the US is involved in, you may be looking at citizenship in less than a year. Uh, Can I get a work permit if I'm on asylum waiting 2 years court date? Yes. So as long as you've applied for your asylum, you can apply for the work permit. Now, 150 days after you've submitted your application for asylum is when you're supposed to be able to apply for the work permit. Then at the 180-day mark or shortly thereafter is when they can issue the work permit to you. So it's very important to just pay attention to this. Now, if you're in court, it's going to be a different filing procedure than if you're filing. So, court, we call it defensive asylum. And then if you're in, if you are in the USCIS, you have applied for it, you've taken the steps to apply for it. You are not applying for asylum in defense of deportation or removal proceedings, then you're filing an affirmative asylum with the USCIS. And so for the USCIS, you can file online, but it depends for if it's in court, you may have to follow a different filing procedure if it's in court already. Is it advisable to file asylum and file for TPS? Is it advisable for you? I don't know. And this is where I'm going to just stop to make sure you understand that I'm not giving personalized legal advice. This is very general information. But if you qualify for both and everything lines up, then you can apply for both asylum and TPS at the same time. But here's another thing is, remember that asylum, you must apply for asylum within 365 days of entering the United States. Otherwise, it's not impossible, but it gets a lot harder to apply for asylum. You'd have to show that there were some sort of changes in circumstances that led to the delay or caused you not to apply for asylum within that time, or you'll have to show exceptional circumstances prevented you from applying within the deadline. So, for example, if you've experienced sickness or death during that time, then you can apply for asylum. You'll be able to apply for asylum. So, based on extraordinary circumstances or exceptional circumstances. So just be wary of that, though. It gets harder if you wait after the 365 days. So if you're here in the US, you are afraid to return to your country because you are afraid of being targeted based on your identity, based on your beliefs, based on your political opinion, based on your religion, based on a group that you're a part of. It could be maybe in your country, that group that you're a part of is a target. And the group is this is very broad, and it's going to depend on your circumstances here. But if you are here in the US and you are afraid of returning to your country because of these kinds of issues, then it's time to consider asylum. You can always give me a call, schedule an appointment, and we can talk. By the way, my schedule is filling up, so I want to make sure that you get on my schedule so I can help you, because it is filling up very quickly, and I want to be able to help you before the end of the year. All right, let's go. What happens after being approved for the work permit? I answered that. What if you got a 10-year asylum green card but want to remove because my parent is sick and need to go visit? So that's a more complex issue, and that is very specific to you. Usually with asylum, you while you have a green card with asylum, the question is, why are you going back to the country that you said you had a fear of returning to? And I understand your parents are number one, they're a priority, of course. But you may travel at the risk of facing further scrutiny about whether your asylum was it truthful, and or was it a frivolous type of asylum application? So you really need to get personalized legal advice, because this is so specific. All right, let me answer some questions over here on TikTok. Go ahead, put your questions in so I can go ahead and start answering those questions. Do you have a over the phone consultation? Absolutely, it's what works for you. So we do video and phone consultations, whatever is convenient for you. All right, scrolling through now to answer some questions. So put those questions. Is a fiance visa the ideal to get a fiance here from Jamaica quicker than a spouse? So with the fiance visa, I would say it depends. The timeline is very similar right now. The timeline, you're looking at about 18 months for the fiance visa versus maybe 2 years for the spouse. And sometimes the spouse visa comes through faster than the fiance. So I would say when it comes to the fiance visa, it comes down to personal preference, and the personal preference would be, what are your goals as a couple? So, for example, is it very important to you that you get married in the United States? Or that that you have your friends and family in the United States here, and that's why you want the fiance visa. Those are the kind of considerations that you'd have to keep in mind. Good morning. Can I tell how I go about applying for the work permit? You do have to qualify for other type of relief or benefits on the immigration. So you can't just go pick up a work permit application and then apply for your work permit. Can you imagine if we could do that? Everybody would be able to have their work permit coming in. So unfortunately, it's not that easy. This is where the consultation is very important, because in the consultation, I ask very specific questions to be able to pinpoint which situation is right for you to apply for the work permit, because you're going to have to either be applying for forms of relief or applying through relatives or an employer. And when I say employer, you're not applying for the work permit through an employer. You're applying for maybe the employer's petitioning for you to get permanent residence. And so you get the work permit while you wait for the green card to come through in the case of an employer. Same with family. Same if you, for example, were the victim of a crime, or you're the victim of, if you were subjected to mistreatment by a spouse, a parent, or a child, you could get the work permit through VAWA. Or if a spouse was petitioning for you, or a parent was petitioning for you, then the work permit could be a possibility here. But the consultation is going to be what gets you there, what helps me to determine whether you qualify to apply for the work permit. If you're living in the States and you're on filing, can you get a work permit? So if you're on filing, as in someone just filed an I-130 for you, then no. But if you do qualify and you are applying for the I-485, the adjustment of status, then yes, that's going to entitle you to the work permit while you wait for the process to finish. What if your affidavit from someone, but you can't find your 2020 W-2? Okay, so this is too specific. You need to get legal representation to help you with that. Are they giving pending asylum 5 years? Yes, they are. They're giving pending asylum. So if you're applying for asylum and you've applied for the first time, or you're renewing, you're going to get the 5 year. If you're living in the US and you are on filing, can you get a work permit? I answered that one, so it depends. I know that this might be off topic, but I'm trying to bring my fiance from Jamaica. It's not off topic at all. You can explore the fiance visa. The fiance visa, you do have to show that you've seen each other in the most recent 2 years before applying, that you are a US citizen. If you're not a US citizen, unfortunately, you wouldn't be able to apply for your fiance. You would have to go to Jamaica, or your fiance would have to come here, get married, and you'd have to file for them as a permanent resident instead. And you also have to show that you have an intention to really get married after you get the fiance visa. You do have to get married within 90 days of arriving in the US on the fiance visa. Can you travel? Let's see. I'm seeing a lot of good questions. Can you travel internationally when you receive travel documents and EAD? So I haven't looked at yours, but yes, if you've gotten the travel document, it means you can travel internationally. But what I do for my clients is I make sure that my clients don't have any additional risk that would cause them to be denied re-entry into the US, because that is small. The chances are small, but there are always risks associated with traveling outside of the US on the travel document. If you're undocumented and you're on filing, can you get the work permit? So that it depends. Can asylee marry an alien after approval and bring them to the US before getting green card? So I don't get into what's required, what kind of forms you can file. But yes, once you do have asylum and you do get married, your spouse can get the asylum status with you before, of course, getting the green card. If you get the green card, you have to petition for your spouse. If you're undocumented, let's see, can asylee, okay, so I answered that. Can you change status after being a J1 program for 12 months? It's possible, but are you subject to the 2-year foreign residency requirement? If so, there are going to be some special considerations here. Can I file for my father with a 10-year green card? If you're a US citizen, no. So as a permanent resident, you cannot file for your parent. If you are a US citizen and you're age 21 or older, you can. I received my EAD 3 months ago, but it's expiring in 2 years. Is the 5-year automatic? So no, you're gonna have to renew in 2 years. Now, hopefully, if we still have the same administration with the same policies, then is when you're gonna be issued the 5-year work permit upon renewal. If you're living in the US undocumented and you're, okay, so I answered that. Can a person that has an I think SSN through H2B work while waiting for the green card? And now, as long as your H2B status is still valid, you can continue to work unless they take your H2B status away from you. You can continue to work under that status. Can a person that has, so I answered that. File VAWA abeyance in December and um, prima facie in May. Should I be getting EAD anytime soon? So each of those run separately. The prima facie does run separately from the work permit. So getting the prima facie does not mean that you're going to be issued your work permit shortly thereafter. The prima facie is great news. Prima facie means that they've done a preliminary review of your case and they believe you do qualify, but they have to do a more detailed review before making a final decision. And then they put it in queue to do a final review, and you get your prima facie while you wait. Prima facie can get you your driver's license. It can get you your so it can get you your driver's license. It can get you, certain benefits that you may be needing. Um, However, the processing times for the work permit, it runs about 9 months to a year after filing. What happens if your spouse divorces you in the middle of your immigration process? This is where you're going to need to evaluate whether you qualify for a VAWA or an alternative. If your spouse mistreated you and they're a citizen or resident, then you can move forward with VAWA. It's a possibility. This is where it's very important to make sure you schedule an appointment. Can we apply for TPS and travel document online? I qualify to apply and wanted to know if we can apply online. So in some circumstances, you can apply for the TPS online. However, I don't know what your situation is, so I wouldn't be able to advise whether you do, but in certain situations, you can qualify. Can you advise me, please? So I can't give personalized legal advice, so you cannot take this as personalized legal advice. I can provide general information that can possibly provide you some, information, helpful information for educational purposes. So at what age can a US born citizen whom is 16 years now apply for their mother's citizenship? So at the age of 21. What happens after the fee is waived? So if the fee is waived, it means they accept your paperwork and they continue your process. Can I get a work permit if I'm on asylum waiting 2 years court? It may be a possibility. I have a lot of clients. Okay. Um, I filed for my mother when she came, and I don't see the rest of it. I'll look out for the rest of it. So you can work with me. Absolutely. I'm here to assist. What I would say is if you want to work with me, go to the link in the profile, click on the link. It's going to give you a number of buttons at the very top. You can schedule your own appointment. You can go to the website if you want to learn more about me and the law firm, ST Law Office. You can call the number that's on the website, and staff will be more than happy to assist you. The first step is to schedule an appointment because, of course, I have to evaluate your case and give you advice about how to move forward before we can get to work. My schedule is filling up quickly, so call and get your date ASAP so that we can get started to work with you as soon as possible. Can I file for my unmarried brother? He has epilepsy. So yes, but it's a 14-year process, and they're in the case where it's 14 years long, they're very hesitant to grant any kind of expedites or to speed up your process There's no way to speed it up really. So you're looking at about 14 years. Mm. Do you take male VAWA cases? Of course, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought this up because men do qualify for VAWA as well. This is not a type of application only for women. Okay, so question here, can someone get VAWA approval and T visa at the same time? Yes, that is a possibility, to get the both of them at the same time as long as you qualify for both. What if you have a 10-year asylum green card? Can it be changed to the regular green card? So once you have permanent residence, you have permanent residence. Yes, you got it through asylum, but it doesn't mean that another green card is better than the one that you have. But it is not going to change. It's not going to change the fact that, and I think this is still related to the travel. um, you can't do that, right? You can't just change it to a regular green card and then travel. You qualified for the green card through asylum, and this is where you have to deal with the that aspect of it. If your visa was canceled because they say that you were working, can you get back your visa? It may be possible. It's going to be a long shot for now, but it may be possible in the future. If you can convince them in the future that you're not going to, you're not going to repeat the immigration violation of working without a permit. However, if they found more severe, so say you came in through the airport and they turned you around, there's a 5-year bar usually. And you'll have to wait 5 years before, at least 5 years before you apply for another visa. I'm I'm married, not yet. I'm not yet put in the paperwork. Can I apply for ITIN? So, yes, you can apply for your ITIN number at any point. You don't even have to live here in the US to get an ITIN number. Can a family member adopt an 18-year-old? Yes, but for immigration purposes, it's not going to work. Under immigration, you have to adopt the child before the age of 16. All right. When USCIS asks you to upload additional evidence, is it possible for waiver? It depends on the case type. I'm not sure what case type, but usually when you're applying for a waiver, you have to apply separately. There are separate applications that you have to submit to get the waiver. Now, if you applied for a waiver of the fees, it just depends. They usually just deny it or approve it. Is usually no request for evidence for a fee waiver. Our I-130 was approved and sent to the NVC, but our lawyer put us at a hold for 5 years. I'm not sure. Okay, yes. So, um, this is just a part of the immigration processing times. Your I-130 was approved, but you probably still have some more time. And I call it the wait list, but it means that your priority date is not current yet. All right. Can a person that has SSN through H-2B work while waiting for the green card and work permit? Yes, as long as your H-2B is still valid. I filed for, let's see. Okay, so I believe I answered a lot of these questions already. Can you still get a work permit after being in the country for over 5 years and out of status? It's possible. Whether whether you qualify, that's where the consultation is very important. But I have gotten status for my clients, gotten the work permit for my clients that have been here for many more years out of status, and have he even came into the country across, came in, was smuggled into the country. So there was not even a record of my client until we applied for their relief. So it's possible, but whether it can be possible in regards to you is where the consultation is going to be very important. If you have a child born out of the US as a green card holder, when you get your citizenship, does a child, your child still has to be a permanent resident to then get the citizenship along with you. But what will happen is if your child is under 18 and you petition for your child, when your child becomes a permanent resident, comes into the US, they will become a citizen. What is usually the next step after DQ filing for an offspring? It means that you're going to wait until they schedule the interview. That's going to be the next step. My mom misled to leave uh, the country. So now, if you would like to get legal advice, go ahead and schedule an appointment. Your mom should schedule the appointment. Now, if your mom won the asylum, so it sounds like she got asylum already. My next question would be, why would she need VAWA then? Because she can just go from applying for having asylum to then applying for her permanent residence. Okay, so I have a question here about, do you need proof that you had relations with your spouse? No, you don't need to prove that kind of detail, but you do have to show that your marriage was real. In order to show your marriage is real, you're going to have to show that you and your spouse lived your lives, planned your lives together, planned to spend your lives together, paid your bills together, lived together, did other types of things that married couples do, document wise, when you're things you've documented. Those are the kinds of things that you have to prove, like joint bank account, joint lease, joint bills that you've had, but you don't have to go to the level of detail of, providing any kind of sordid details regarding, the behind scene activities with your spouse. My wife is an LPR that she got from her previous marriage and she's abusive. I was wondering if I qualify for VAWA, but afraid because the 5 years rule for LPR is the rule. Does the rule apply on VAWA applicants? So, no, the rule does not apply here because the rule usually applies and it usually reflects on the spouse. The spouse the spouse that married the previous spouse. In your case, if you're abused and you can prove that your marriage was bona fide, then there is no standard that says that you have to have a higher level of proof because you were married less than 5 years. That is usually if the US citizen spouse is not the US citizen, the LPR spouse is petitioning for you within the 5 years of being married to a previous spouse that got them the green card. But this doesn't apply in VAWA. So yes, domestic violence does apply to the U visa to as a victim of crime. So domestic violence. Um, All right, so I'm going to just answer one more question and then I will aim to be back tomorrow at lunchtime where we will continue to have a conversation. Thanks so much for your time, everyone. And these are great questions. Keep these questions coming. Think about your questions. If I didn't get to your questions, I am here often. I'm aiming to get right back on track where I can be here every day, Monday to Friday at around lunchtime. That's usually between 12 and 1. So look out for me then and put your questions in, and then I can answer your questions. But keep in mind that this is very general information. You're not going to, while you find helpful, empowering information here, you're not going to find information about your particular case. That's where you need to schedule your own personalized consultation. And you're going to do that by going to the link in the profile. Click on the link, and then you'll be able to schedule your own appointment or call the office for assistance. Now, my schedule is filling up very quickly, so please make sure that you pick a time quickly because time is going, it's almost the end of the year, and I really do want to make sure that I can help you to figure out a solution, figure out a path forward. And then also keep in mind that immigration policies are changing, are subject to change, unfortunately, just depending on the politics. Even right now, we're dealing with the politics in the state. If you are in a state right now like Florida, and now we're looking at Texas that are passing these kind of draconian laws against immigrants, then you know how crucial it is to one, make sure you're safe, make sure you understand the implications of the law here, but also understand how timing matters here. Timing matters to make sure that you get what you qualify for. Right now, with the election coming next year, 2024, we are looking at another, for example, the Republican, we have a Republican president, and then if we also have a majority Republican in Congress, now we have a majority in the House, we don't have in the Senate. But if that balance tips over to the advantage of the Republicans, then we can be seeing a completely different immigration system coming in 2025. So if you do qualify for something, you want to make sure you get on it now to protect yourself, protect your interests, and be able to take action on getting your life forward and just avoiding living in the shadows. All right. So have a good day, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.